Hello, you're about to watch the video for Module 3 on identifying supporting details. My name is Robert Durr. I'm an assistant professor of English here at Danville Community College. Here are some things you'll need while watching the video. First, you'll need your textbook because we'll be going over exercise 4.1, 4.2, and 4.3. You'll need a pencil or a pen. You'll also need your guided reading and viewing notes. Please fill those out as you watch the video. And your vocabulary cards, because some of your vocabulary words might appear in the exercises at the end of the video. If you remember back from Module 2, that might be a while ago, but we looked at the parts of a text. We said that a text can be a single paragraph or a multi-paragraph document. We also looked at the parts of a paragraph. We talked about what a topic was and what a main idea was. In this module, we're going to look at details, okay? The sentences that explain or support the main idea. So if we think back to the main idea, remember we said main idea is the topic plus the author's feelings, opinions, or slants towards the topic. That's going to be what your main idea is about, okay? So the point the paragraph is trying to make. And now we're going to look at the sentences that explain further or support this main idea. Supporting details are reasons, examples, facts, steps, or other kinds of evidence that explain the main idea. Okay? Remember we said the main idea statement can also be called the topic sentence. We talked about it as the topic sentence. So these supporting details are going to support the topic sentence. They might give examples about the topic sentence, they might give facts, they might describe in steps how the topic sentence is done. So they can come in multiple different ways. Supporting details form the bulk of a text. As we looked at in the last video, the topic sentence is only one sentence, maybe two sentences. But a paragraph is made up of more than just one or two sentences. It's often 7 to 10 sentences long. So the supporting details are what form the mass of the rest of the paragraph. In a good paragraph, the topic sentence is supported by multiple supporting details. So you have your topic sentence, and then you have multiple supporting reasons or examples or facts. It's not just one supporting detail. Supporting details can help readers identify the stated main idea. We talked about that in video number 1, where the writer comes out and specifically says what he or she wants the reader to know. They can also contain important information that help readers formulate the main idea when it's implied. If you remember back to Module 2, Video 2, we had that chart where we listed the details and then had the arrows to come over and form the main idea that was implied. Okay? So the details can give you hints or clues about what a writer is trying to say when he or she does not come out and specifically say what the topic or the main idea is. Listing supporting details after you finish reading can help you remember them. So if you make that chart where you list the details in order, it'll help you remember the details and it'll help you connect them. Okay, remember, connecting is part of your active reading strategy, so it's important to make the connection between details. Let's look at this cartoon. What sentence in this cartoon is a detail that supports the main idea that it was not going well? So the main idea here is that this person, this guy here, his judgment is not going well. We have the two sentences. I never preyed upon the weak and defenseless, and I never prayed a day in my life. Which one do you think is going to get him in more trouble, or which one do you think is going to show that it was not going well for him? Okay? Probably the second one. I never prayed a day in my life. Okay, that's probably not a good thing if he's being judged here by an angel. Okay, so that would be an example of a detail that supports this main idea. Now, we have two different types of supporting details that we're going to talk about. Okay? We have major supporting details and minor supporting details. Okay? It's very important to distinguish the two. A major supporting detail explains, develops, or supports the main idea or the topic sentence. it's directly connected to the message that the author is trying to make. In order to be an effective paragraph, a topic sentence must be supported by major details. So in order to have a good paragraph, you have to include major details. Minor supporting details explain or develop major details. So they're connected to the major supporting details, which then go and support the main idea. So minor supporting details don't directly support the main idea, they support the major supporting details. While minor supporting details are not required, you don't have to have minor supporting details to make an effective argument. When included, they add extra information that makes the paragraph more interesting and exciting, or more easy to understand for the reader. They help bring things out. They help explain topics and ideas. So they're not required, but they're good to help readers understand things a little better. So to identify supporting details, you need to ask yourself the question, what additional information does the author provide to help me, the reader, understand the main idea completely? So what examples, what facts, what steps, what quotations are included that help me understand the main idea? Another way to identify some supporting details are going to be with signal words. I've listed a couple signal words here that help you identify that something is going to be a supporting detail. First, second, third, if they're listed like that. The word next, also, in addition to, moreover, for example, to illustrate. All of those are signal words that are going to be clues in your head that what comes after that is going to be a supporting detail. Now note, not every supporting detail is introduced by a signal word or signal phrase. And there are a lot of other signal phrases that I haven't included here. These are just some of the most common ones. So let's look at an example paragraph together to help try to identify the major and minor supporting details. Social psychologists have found that almost everyone gossips. Male or female, young or old, blue collar or professional, humans love to talk about one another. All too often, such gossip is viewed as a frivolous waste of time. However, it actually serves several important functions in the human community. For one thing, gossip is a form of networking. Talking with our friends and coworkers about each other is our most effective means of keeping track of the ever-changing social dynamic. It tells us who's in, who's out, and who can help us climb the social or professional ladder. A second function of gossip is the building of influence. When we engage in gossip, we're able to shape people's opinions of ourselves. We tell stories that show ourselves in good light, wise, compassionate, insightful, clever. So here we have the paragraph again, but with some hints in here. In the blue, we have the main idea, okay? That gossip, it actually serves several important functions in the human community. Okay? So gossip is the topic, and the main idea then is that gossip serves several important functions. Okay? And then if we think in our heads, we're going to have examples of how this functions. So we have to prepare ourselves and kind of look for those specific functions. So the first one here, for one thing, it's a way of forming a social, or of forming networking. Okay? And then we have, so that's a major detail, and then we have the minor detail describing this major supporting detail. Talking with our friends and coworkers about each other is our most effective means of keeping track of ever-changing social dynamic. So that explains this idea of forming a network. We have another major supporting detail down here. We have this signal phrase right here, a second function, so we know that that's going to be another major supporting detail, is that gossip is a way of building influence. And then we have the next two sentences which go on to support this idea of building influence. So when we engage in gossip and we all tell stories, those are sentences that would be minor supporting details. So main idea again, gossip serves several important functions. Major detail, one of the functions is forming a network. Another function is building influence. We have minor details here that support forming network. Gossiping is the best way to know who's out, who's in, and who can help us socially or professionally. And then for the major detail number 2, again, the minor detail is by gossiping we can impress others with our and make them think that we are clever and compassionate. Okay, so major details, minor details. We don't need these minor details to have a paragraph, but we need these major details to show that gossiping serves several important functions. To practice identifying supporting details even more, we're going to look at exercises 4-1, 4-2, and 4-3. If you haven't completed these exercises yet, please pause the video, complete the exercises, and then start the video again. For exercise 4-1, we're asked to double underline the topic sentence and then underline once the major supporting details in the following paragraphs. So, in paragraph number 1, or question number 1, we have, there are many reasons why people begin smoking. Some young and some not so young people are ignorant of the dangers of smoking. Some young people smoke because their peers smoke and they believe that smoking helps them fit in or is cool or sophisticated. Others smoke because they find it pleasurable. So the first sentence is going to be your topic sentence. It's going to be the main idea. There are many reasons why people smoke. That's what the whole paragraph is about. And then each of the following sentences is going to be a major supporting detail. Each one gives a reason why people begin smoking. Okay? Ignorant of the dangers. They believe it helps them fit in or is cool. Or because they find it pleasurable. Okay? All of those are major supporting details. In paragraph number 2, the amazing evolution of computers over the last 20 years has allowed for an equally amazing evolution in music. Today, electronic music can be produced on a home computer using sequencer software to record, edit, reproduce digital sounds in patterns and sequences at will. Advanced synthesizers now produce their stuff in real time, as the simpler synthesizers of popular music have been doing for years. They can interact via computer with live musicians as they perform to produce today's cutting-edge interactive computer music. So, first we need to identify the main idea. So that, again, like number 1, is going to be our first sentence. The amazing evolution of computers over the last 20 years has allowed for an equally amazing evolution in music. That's what the whole paragraph is going about. It's going to be describing the evolution of music. Okay. Sentence number 2 describes this. Okay. It can be produced on a home computer, and the software can let them edit, record, and reproduce. Okay. We also have advanced synthesizers now produce their stuff in real time. Okay. So, which is different than the simple synthesizers of popular music have been doing for years. The last sentence supports, or is a minor detail that supports this: advanced synthesizers now produce their stuff in real time. It tells how they do that and what it allows them to do. So it's a minor detail. This last sentence doesn't need to be here for this to be an effective paragraph. Okay, if we look at paragraph number 3, the main idea or topic sentence is going to be the first paragraph, or the first sentence in the paragraph. There are 4 main modes, modes is another word for method, of transporting food to one's mouth. So this topic sentence gives us a hint that there are going to be 4 major supporting details, because there are going to be 4 modes. Okay? The oldest and most widespread is the use of the hands. That's the first major supporting detail. The next sentence explains or describes this mode of transporting food to the mouth. Second, we have a signal phrase here, so we know that this sentence is going to be a major supporting detail. adding edible sheets of paper. So this is the second mode of transporting food to one's mouth. We have an example, okay? This example is of this mode or this method. So we know that that's a minor supporting detail. Third, okay, another signal word, chopsticks. That would be a mode. Finally, so notice we don't have a minor detail for the third one. Then we have the fourth one, the knife, fork, spoon, toolkit. Okay, that would be another mode that's different. Okay, so that's going to be a major supporting detail. The spoon has been used. Okay, spoon is part of that fourth mode, so we know that this last one is going to be a minor supporting detail. In number 4, again we have the topic sentence as the first sentence. Economists recognize that every decision involves trade-offs. Okay? So here we're given an example. If you buy a cup of coffee for 70 cents, you're giving up other things that you could have bought with the money. So this would be a minor detail. It's an example. This, because your income is limited, whenever you choose to consume one thing, you're giving up other things. This directly supports this idea that every decision involves trade-offs. Okay? And this one is specifically dealing with your income. If you choose to consume coffee, you may be giving up donuts. Okay? So that's going to be supporting this idea that because your income is limited, whenever you choose to consume one thing, you're giving up other things. So if you choose to consume coffee, you're giving up donuts, that last sentence is a minor supporting detail. And then number 5. Just like the other ones, the first sentence is our main idea or topic sentence. A conditioned reinforcer, also called a secondary reinforcer, is one that has acquired reinforcing value by being associated with a primary reinforcer. That might be confusing, okay? But we have the classic example of a conditioned reinforcer is money. So we have a reinforcer, which is what this first part is talking about. So we have this specifically dealing with the main idea, so this is going to be a major supporting detail. Money is reinforcing not because those flimsy bits of paper and little pieces of metal have value. Okay, this is going in more detail about money, and this is a major detail, so we know that this is minor. It's not directly talking about the main idea. Awards, frequent flyer points, and college degrees are just a few other examples of conditioned reinforcers. Okay? So we're back to reinforcers here, and these are specific examples. So conditioned reinforcers, that's going to be a major detail, a major supporting detail. Now, if we look at exercise 4-2, it's asking us to identify the minor supporting details. Okay, minor supporting details, not major, but minor. So what I've done in this first one to help you see exactly what's going on, I've identified the topic sentence, which is the first one. Like all other mammalian hearts, the human heart has 4 chambers, 2 atria and 2 ventricles. Okay, so that's what the whole paragraph is going to be about, is about the heart and the 4 chambers. The next sentence, the atrium and ventricle on the right side of your body are called the right atrium and right ventricle. That's a major detail. That specifically describes the atria and the ventricle. They can be thought of as the right heart. So they, okay, this gives us a clue. The word they goes back to describe right atrium and right ventricle. Okay, so that gives us a hint that that sentence is going to be a minor detail. We don't need that sentence in there for this to make sense. The next sentence, the atrium and ventricle on the left side of your body are called the left atrium and the left ventricle. Okay? Again, that's a major detail because atrium, ventricle go right back to the topic sentence. They can be thought of as the left heart. Again, they gives us a hint that we're talking about atrium and ventricle, So since we're talking about the major detail, not the main idea, that's going to be a minor supporting detail as well. Number 2, okay, this goes back to number 5 in exercise 4-1. We identified the first sentence as the topic sentence. We identified the second sentence as a major detail. So, because this next sentence, money is reinforcing, money is going back to this major detail, so we know that that's going to be a minor detail. And then we already identified the last sentence as a major detail as well. So, this sentence in the middle is your only minor detail. Okay, number 3 goes back and matches with number 3 on 4-1. First sentence is your topic sentence. Remember, we're talking about the 4 main modes of transporting food. Second sentence is a major detail because it's the first mode. All people use hands to some extent. Okay, hands goes back to the major detail here, so that is going to be a minor supporting detail. Examples, we're talking about examples of edible sheets here, and we already said that this sentence, starting with second, this sentence is a major supporting detail, so this would be a minor supporting detail. It's an example of the major detail. We said that this third major supporting detail doesn't have any examples, so there are no minor details that go with that one. And then the last one, the major supporting detail, starts with finally. We're talking about the knife, fork, spoon toolkit. The spoon has been used by societies, although sometimes only as a serving implement. Okay, we're talking about the spoon specifically, and that goes back to this mode. Okay, so that is a minor supporting detail at the end there. Number 4 goes back and matches with question number 2 on 4-1. First sentence is your topic sentence. Second sentence is a major detail. Third sentence is a major detail. The fourth sentence goes back to talk about these synthesizers. Okay, we're talking about the advanced synthesizers. Okay, so this pronoun helps us identify that this last sentence is going to be a minor supporting detail. And then we have number 5. Okay, this one is another new paragraph. It doesn't go back to deal with any of the ones from 4-1. So drug misuse is the use of a drug for the wrong reason, in the wrong way, or by the wrong person. Using sleeping pills or tranquilizers prescribed for a friend is an example of drug misuse. The drugs might be harmful for you. Popping an antibiotic for a cough without consulting the doctor is also misuse. Antibiotics combat bacteria, but the drug would be useless against the cough caused by a virus. A prescription cough syrup containing the opiate drug codeine would be misused if you used it to get high rather than to relieve a cough, or if you took higher than recommended dosage. First sentence is your topic sentence, drug misuse. Then we have an example of this misuse is using sleeping pills. The sentence, the drug might be harmful for you, goes back and describes the sleeping pills. So that is an example of a minor supporting detail. Popping antibiotics for a cough, that's another example of a misuse. So that ties back to your topic sentence. So we know it's not a minor supporting detail, it's major. Antibiotics combat bacteria. This would be an example of popping the antibiotics for a cough. It explains why this is bad or why you shouldn't do it. Okay, and then the last sentence is another example of misuse. Okay, drug codeine would be misused. So that is a major detail, not a minor detail. Okay, the last exercise, 4-3, it asks us to identify the unstated main idea of the paragraph of the selection from Media and Culture by Richard Campbell. So if we look at number 1, in 1978, NPR aired the first live coverage of a Senate debate. In 1991, NPR's Nina Totenberg was the first broadcaster to report Anita Hill's sexual harassment charges against future Supreme Court Justice Clarence Thomas. NPR's many interview and news feature series are considered unrivaled in broadcast news. So, which one of these is the implied main idea based on the details that we're given? It's going to be the first one. NPR has done better than commercial radio in some of its reporting. And this last sentence really gives us the clue here. NPR's many interview and news feature series are considered unrivaled. Okay? So that means that they're superior or better than other broadcast news. So NPR has done better than commercial radio in some of its reporting. That sentence helps us really identify that A is your main idea there. Number 2. So why is it that in every decade since NPR's creation, politicians have threatened to cut off its support? One reason is a perceived liberal bias. Most critics, however, regard NPR as much more even-handed than the commercial news networks. NPR's own audience studies indicate that slightly more than 1/3 of its listeners are conservative, just under 1/3 are liberals, and the other third are moderates. So B is going to be our correct answer here. Politicians perceive NPR as too liberal. Okay? So if we look here, politicians have threatened to cut off its support, and we have a reason. Okay, one reason is perceived liberal bias. So politicians perceive NPR to have a liberal bias. B is going to be our main idea. The paragraph for question 3 reads, to understand NPR's shaky status requires backtracking through radio history. By the late 1920s, corporate interests had pulled the control of radio away from non-commercial sector, farmers, labor unions, educators, religious leaders, and other citizens groups that operated radio stations. Even prior to that time, the government had been granting favors to commercial radio, including making rules to control amateur operators and interfering with their radio signals. Radio lobbyists representing commercial interests claimed that the issues of education, religion, and labor, often represented today on NPR, were propaganda serving special interests. They also claimed that the profit motives of the networks represented the real public interest. So down here we have our 2 choices. A, radio should be controlled by citizens groups, or B, negative attitudes towards NPR are partly a result of the history of radio broadcasting. So the answer is going to be B. It talks about the negative attitudes towards NPR and explains how they're related to the history of radio broadcasting. So to understand NPR's shaky status requires backtracking through history. Okay, that gives us a hint at what this is going to be about. Okay, and then it's supported by the negative things that have happened to public broadcasters like NPR we have down here. So we know that the answer is going to be B. Nowhere in this paragraph does it say radio should be controlled by citizens groups. They're arguing why it shouldn't be in here. Okay, the commercial lobbyists are arguing why it shouldn't be. So A would not be your answer. B would be your answer for the main idea. Number 4. Based on this logic, the newly created Federal Radio Commission, or the FRC, forced many nonprofit stations off the air during evening hours, turning their frequencies over to commercial stations. This limited nonprofit stations' airtime and lessened its audience reach, since most listening occurred after dinner. Many nonprofit stations also had their daytime power severely curtailed, which means cut down. A signal that once traveled thousands of miles now went on only a few miles. Let's look at this idea. It says, based on this logic, what logic are they talking about? To find that answer, we have to go back to the text of question number 3. And the logic that number 4 is talking about is down here, the part that's in the brackets. Slide it over so we get the whole thing. Radio lobbyists representing commercial interests claim the issues of education, religion, and labor were propaganda serving special interests. They also claim that profit motives of networks represented the real public interest. Okay? So that is the logic here that is described. That is the reason why the Federal Radio Commission was created. So our options down here: a new government agency was needed to control radio, thus the FRC was born, or those in power, the FRC, sided with commercial interests. Who created the FRC? Well, that's going to be the government. Okay? And they agreed with the logic that the commercial stations put forth, so the government created the FRC. Therefore, those in power sided with the commercial interests. That's why the FRC was created. They weren't agreeing with the special interests or nonprofit, they were agreeing with the commercial powers. Okay? So this explains why and how the FRC was created. It's not just saying that it was needed to control this, or that there was a need. It explains how the FRC was created or why it was created. So B is your correct answer here for the implied main idea. And number 5. Slowly, commercial stations began buying up the nonprofits, which struggled to meet expenses during the Depression. During the last major battle over radio reform, 25% of all broadcast frequencies were going to be set aside for a wide range of nonprofit groups. The arguments of commercial lobbyists defeated the measure, however. By describing capitalism, an economic system, as a synonym for democracy, a political system, corporate interest prevailed. So what happened here? There was going to be a reform where 25% of all the broadcast frequencies were going to go back to the nonprofits. But notice here, that measure was defeated. Okay? That didn't happen. The nonprofits didn't get that 25% back because of the commercial lobbyists. So that's what's going on in the paragraph. So if we look at our two options, politics was responsible for the success of commercial broadcast, or during the Depression, nonprofit radio stations suffered more severely than commercial stations. Well, we don't necessarily see this, okay? We don't have it stated that they struggled more. Okay? It just says that they struggled to meet expenses. It doesn't say that the commercial ones didn't struggle. So B can't necessarily be our answer. A, we have directly stated here. Politics was responsible for the success of commercial broadcasting. So lobbyists, okay, right here, commercial lobbyists, that deals with politics. Lobbying deals with politics. So these lobbyists for commercial broadcasting defeated the nonprofits. Okay? So the commercial stations were able to succeed because of the politics. So A is going to be your implied main idea. This concludes the video on identifying and understanding supporting details. If you feel comfortable with this topic, please go ahead and move on to the assignments in Module 3. If you still have some questions about major details, minor details, or how to find them or distinguish the two, please ask your instructor before moving on.